Okay, let's move on with the first book, 001, titled Law of Salimi. Okay, for today we are going to go and talk a little bit about, okay, maybe not talk, let's just go straight and dive into the book. By going through, basically by listening to this video, hopefully you can begin to delve into what this book is about. And at the very least, we will cover the very first chapter within this book. And hopefully it will pique your interest to continue onwards and see what this book is about. So let's begin by, this is the first part of the, I would say, the cover of the book, which is drawn by me. Okay, it's not, it's an old drawing, I would say. I'm not very good person in terms of my capability to draw, but I like the cover. Nevertheless, this is the title of the book, Law of Salimi. So let's go and start with the prologue. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, greetings to all of my cherished readers. I am pleased to say that I am grateful to Allah the Merciful for allowing me this opportunity to write this book about my true life story. Okay, before I continue, let me just say that as the storyteller, I don't want to force anyone to say that this book is a true story. But instead, let me give you a proposition. Why don't you go through and listen to this book, at least few chapters, and tell me whether you agree, whether this is a true story or a made up one. And why don't you decide whether it's a true story or not? So, there is nothing that I wish to achieve from writing this book, except with the intention to share knowledge, which is part of my duty as a student of knowledge based on the teachings of Islam. Let me begin by saying that I would like to apologize to anyone who might be harmed in any way or form from reading this book, as it is not my intention to harm anyone. I would like to state here that I am a simple student who had no claim over any title, expertise, rank, or anything that would make me more than a mere human being and servant of Allah the All-Knowing. I do not claim myself to be a knowledgeable person, but merely one who pursues for knowledge. I tried my best to not mention anyone or any institution in this book, except when I had to provide my proof or evidences to support my claims. I would also like to take the opportunity to apologize to anyone whom I had wronged or harmed throughout my life, with my sincerest and humblest conscience in my heart. Whatever that I wrote in this book are the true events that happened in my life based on my own perception and view in accordance to my limited understanding about the teaching of Islam. I am not an expert, and my view should be perceived as mere humble opinion of a student, which does not represent absolute truth or fact of life. I hope that by sharing my life story in this book, it would be able to share some form of knowledge to the masses public, as well as inspire anyone or everyone to be a good human being. I am not a good human being, but I am trying to be one. My life story revolves around the teachings of Islam that strive to achieve peace, harmony, and goodness to all mankind, including Muslims and non-Muslims. Considering the state of my life right now, I am unable to employ any professional publishing services for this book. Thus, this book might have grammatical errors since I am not an expert in English language. Okay, this part is the original version where this digital format or version of the book will be sold and published by me at the price of RM 10 ringgit, which is Malaysian ringgit or MYR. Okay, to be honest, at this point, as this video is going out to the masses through via YouTube, I consider that this is no longer applicable. I'm not selling this book through this. Nevertheless, I will still state it as part of my, I guess, part of the writing being written during the time of this book. I will be the sole seller of this version of at the price of RM 10 ringgit, which meant that it should not be made available by any other seller or distributor. So it is to say that you shouldn't find this book anywhere else, at least based not through my own official consent or anything. I'm not selling this book. So if you find any version of the book anywhere, possibly outside from my own channel or from other ways possible, I guess it's not from me. So anyway, let's continue. I am still considering whether I would publish this book into a physical copy with the assistance of professional publication company in the future. Nonetheless, if you pay more than the price stated above or acquire this digital format from anyone other than me, it is highly possible that it is an illegal copy. So, as I said before, this may or may not apply at this point in time. Nevertheless, let's continue. As it is priced quite cheap at about $2 $2.75, I reckon that it shouldn't be a problem to purchase this book directly from me via email at azimsalimi@yahoo.com. It took me about 34 years to gather all of my life experience to write this book, and around 2 months to actually write this book in its digital format. Honestly, I am not a rich person, materialistically speaking, which made me decided to sell this book for RM 10 ringgit per unit instead of giving it for free. I hate making money, but I do need to live my life. So I hope that this will appeal to your conscience towards buying this book directly from me. I wish to state that everything written and included in this book is simply to show my view and evidence of my life story. I do not wish to gain anything or popularity from writing this book. I do not wish to be adored or despised for this choice to share my life story. My result in examination that are included is not a way to gain respect or to show any form of pride or vanity. It is to support the story of my life and indicate that this is in fact my true life story. I do not include them to show off or to be arrogant of my result. Nonetheless, I wish to dedicate this book to both my parents, whom I loved with all of my heart. I am extremely grateful to Allah the Almighty for allowing me to finally complete the writing of this book, as I already tried doing so about 7 years ago and failed to finish it. Alhamdulillah, it seems that throughout my life, there have been many people who wished to learn about my life. Okay. This would be the reason behind me writing this book. It is not as interesting or exciting as others or other great scholars of the past, but I guess I could consider my life as rather odd and weird in comparison to others. As I had said earlier, I am not famous or anything, and I absolutely hate to end up as one. It would be best if I just stop babbling in this section and simply allow you to begin reading, or in this case, listening about my life journey. I hope you enjoy how this story turns out, and thank you for purchasing my book titled Law of Salimi. Please enjoy and have fun. Just a servant of Allah the Almighty, so ignore the rest. Then let's begin with the first chapter. So the first one will be covering chapter 0. The beginning is the end of my death. This is the first chapter. Let's continue. Unlike every other story which starts when a person is born, this story began when my age reaches 17 years old. My life story began exactly after I submitted my answer script of the final examination papers of SPM. What is SPM? It's known as Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, or, well, I'll explain later. It is an examination where every 17 years old students living in Malaysia is expected to take. The examination result will determine a student's studying ability, which allows him or her to enter into a tertiary level of education or university level of education. If one compares SPM examination to other countries, I imagine it would be relatively comparable to SAT examinations that students took in the United States of America. It is an examination that allows student entrance to university or college level of education. What exactly happened to me that made this story to begin at that point in time as the beginning of my life? Why should anyone even consider reading about this story, which might not even be as exciting as any story plot about saving the world? Why should anyone even care? Honestly, I do not know. Why would anyone be even slightly interested to read a story about someone whose life began at 17 years old? What I can share here, at the very least, is the fact that this is a true story. Again, let me remind you again that you as the audience will decide whether this is a true story or otherwise. This is a real event that happened in my life. I will include as much evidence to support that this is a true story, which is written from my perspective of life. At this very point in time of me writing this story, I am at the brink of bankruptcy, where I should be in a state of destitute and despondent about my life. I should feel defeated about my life. I should be, at the very least, sad. I also should find a job, as I am currently unemployed. At this very moment of typing this, reading the words that I wrote, I am smiling. To be accurate, the time now is 9:03 p.m. 32 seconds, and it is 20th of December 2014. The temperature here is 32.3 degrees Celsius. I am 33 years old, unemployed student, burdened heavily in a huge debt of Rm 120,000 to a certain university. From the perspective of Malaysian society, I am the quintessence of failure. Yet, why am I smiling? I'm currently watching a movie titled Red 2 on HBO channel while writing this story, at the same time listening to a song from an opening of anime in a Japanese and German language. The anime is titled Attack on Titans. At this very moment, I am not sad. Deep in my heart, I am truly, sincerely happy. I am grateful for everything that Allah the Almighty have given to me in life so far. From my perspective, it is very clear because it is exactly what I wished for since the last 9 years of my life. Everything that had happened to me, which leads me to this very point of life, is exactly what I prayed for since the past 9 years. My wish has been fulfilled. Therefore, I am grateful. Alhamdulillah. However, at the same time, looking at the perspective of the reader, whom I reckon should be feeling confused and dumbfounded after reading up to this point as to why should they keep on reading this story. Alas, it is understood since from the very beginning of this story up until now, I have not yet given any answers to the readers, whilst at the same time I have been asking numerous questions to the reader. In fact, it is unfair to the reader. Some might even say that I am being cruel or simply lost my trains of thought. The fact of the matter is, I might be intentionally doing this to the reader. Why? You might ask. It is essentially to introduce the reader to the person who is typing this story on his laptop. The person who is in the brink of bankruptcy and smiling with happiness about the state of his present life. I hope that my rambling, or rather writing up to this very point, is essentially causing the reader to be pissed off, angered, and confused with questions in their very mind. Who in the right mind is this reader? Did the writer has lost his mind? Is the writer mentally unstable? Is this even a serious writing, or is it a joke? Damn all these questions, honestly. I don't intend to give all the answers in the second page of this story. However, I do promise the reader that I will give the answers to all of these questions later in this story. My intention is to simply invoke the reader to ask questions, to inquire, and be inquisitive about this story. I want to provide the reader to be interested in seeing my perspective about life. I wish to make the reader to ask as many questions as possible about everything in life, to be inquisitive, to be curious, to question everything. To be interested to learn about everything, to be excited to discover new things in life. Are you interested now? Are you ready to learn my perspectives of life? Do you want to know what happened in this story? Before I continue with the main story, let me put out a disclaimer here. This is a true story about my life. I will write about everything that is going on. I will write about everything that is going to be beneficial to the reader. This means that I will write about all the things that happen in my life that can be helpful to the reader. I shall omit certain bad or negative events that happen in my life. I will still write about the bad things, but not in the detailed format, since I do not wish to negatively influence the reader. However, I shall include every single significant event that happened in my life, both good and bad. In fact, it gives the reader, hopefully, a neutral perspective about my life. Frankly, I do not wish to be judged by anyone, but I do not wish to share the experience in my life. I do not wish to be judged by anyone, but I do wish to share the experience in my life with the reader. By doing so, I believe and hope that the reader can receive beneficial perspectives in my life. The reader can receive beneficial perspective in life. Furthermore, At this point in time, since the earliest memory that I can recall in my life, I have never claimed myself to be a good human being. In fact, I do not claim myself to be a good Muslim. Nevertheless, I have made it my mission in life to become a good Muslim and human being to all mankind. Why am I writing this story of my life? Why do I wish to share my story of my life to the reader? The answer to this question began to become significantly clear since several days ago I was talking to my nephew, who was about to start working for the very first time. I shared about my working experience with him. It seemed to lift his spirits. It seemed to motivate him. It seemed to boost his confidence and alleviate worries in his mind based on what I can read from the expression of his face. In fact, this scenario happened almost every time when I shared my experience with anyone who is willing to listen. Essentially, I reckon by sharing my story to the reader or anyone who is willing to read this ridiculous story might eventually benefit from doing so. Honestly, I really wish that I could help as many souls as I possibly can in the hope of gaining blessings from Allah the Almighty. As explained earlier, I am not a very good human being, nor am I a good Muslim. One might be able to argue that writing this story might possibly be an attempt for me to earn the good graces and blessings from Allah the All-Knowing if it helps anyone. Monetary gain is not my intention. I do not care about making money, especially not from writing this story. In all honesty, at this very moment in time, I truly despise money. However, I still need money to repay my RM120,000 debt, which would otherwise drag me into the realm of bankruptcy. In effect, this one particular reason contribute towards me smiling at this very moment of my writing of this story. I enjoy helping others. I love to assist anyone in need. I am passionate towards becoming a truly good human being and a great Muslim. This is my path in life. I wish to change from being a bad person to a good one. I wish to seek my path of peace. I am one who seeks to find my peace. For those who understand the language of Arabic, one who seeks to find my peace is the definition of my actual name. For those who do not, keep on searching if you wish to know my real name. To make it easier, my first name is defined as one who dreams or one who aspires. My second name is my peace. When both names are combined, it reads one who seeks to find my peace. And if you know who I am, or if you manage to figure out my real name, to you, the reader, I say, nice to meet you. So this ends the first chapter, and I guess, the next chapter will be talking about the continuation of the story, and I guess this would end the video. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for joining and watching the video. I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much.